Rey Skywalker.
That makes I'm fucking done. So, Obi-Wan Kenobi one released, and it gave me cancer! A headache. It's almost exactly what I thought it'd be. And I say almost because, surprise, surprise, I didn't hate it with the burning intensity of 1,000 suns. Not nearly as much as I did with The Last Jedi or even The Book of Boba Fett. I don't know, maybe I've grown numb to the mediocrity. But this show is basically everything I was worried the show would end up being. Which is odd because the conversation around the fandom is that this show is gonna be the one where Lucasfilm really put their best foot forward and deliver something that'll satisfy all corners of the fandom. Well, if this is the best they can do, then
count it out!
I'm so tired.
Some of you will be watching this and say, you were going in expecting to hate it. And, you're not wrong. After the garbage tier media Lucasfilm has been giving us, the show didn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. Nonetheless, I am a generous god, and will give my praises when they are deserved and earned. And so with that being said, I'm gonna speedrun through this plot, so hold on tight ladies and germs. So Obi-Wan is brought out of hiding on Tatooine because Leia gets kidnapped, which itself is a ruse set up by an Imperial Inquisitor named Reva to pull Obi-Wan out of hiding. He follows the trail to Daiyu where he meets a criminal posing as a Jedi who can get people off-world. Reva tracks Obi-Wan to Daiyu and they have a confrontation where Obi-Wan learns that Anakin is alive after everything. Obi-Wan and Leia get off-world thanks to the help of this guy, and they end up on Mapuzo, where they get some help from an Imperial officer who's moonlighting as a rebel agent. The Inquisitors track Obi-Wan to Mapuzo, and Darth Vader shows up. Darth Vader confronts Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan escapes for no other reason than Vader forgot he could put out the fire like he did a few minutes prior. Get used to that, guys. Vader is really inconsistent throughout the show. Leia gets kidnapped by Reva and taken back to Fortress Inquisitorius. Obi-Wan gets help from the Path, an underground railroad for people trying to escape the Imperials. Wait, whoa, the Path in this episode was just a shady means of off-world transportation. Then it turned into the underground railroad where people can escape from the Empire by going to other Imperial systems? Does the Empire control the galaxy or not? Whatever, questions for later. So Ilaria Sand and Obi-Wan go bail Leia out of the fortress.
What's so funny? Your shirt!
Make it back to the rebel camp, but are pursued by Vader and Reva. Reva tells Obi-Wan she was one of the younglings during Order 66 and was able to get away by playing dead and blames Obi-Wan specifically for not saving her. It's then deduced that Reva is actually trying to kill Vader and used Obi-Wan as bait. So Reva, not Vader, lays waste to the rebels, kills Ilaria Sand, and the gang escapes but their hyperdrive is disabled. Reva tries to kill Vader, leading to Vader stabbing her through the chest for a second time. But she survives and discovers Obi-Wan's communicator with Bail, which tips her off to Luke. Ooh, wait, why does she want to go after Luke when she wants revenge on Vader? Like, this shit makes no sense. With the most amount of generosity I can give, she doesn't even know that Luke is Vader's son. All she knows is there's a boy on Tatooine that Obi-Wan knows about, and she decides to try to kill him because she wants to honor her dead friend's memory? I'm so fucking sorry? So Obi-Wan bails out of the ship, trusts Leia to Haja, oh yeah, this guy's back and that's his name, and leads Vader away from the ship. They meet on some rock planet and they have their other rematch where Obi-Wan unlocks his Lost Force abilities like this is a KOTOR game and then defeats Vader, leaving him rather than killing him.
Meanwhile,
Reva is chasing after Luke on Tatooine. Somehow she got there with a gaping chest wound. Owen and Beru try to fend her off, but she can't bring herself to kill Luke, realizing how fucking stupid this is. realizing she's not actually a monster, and gives Luke back to Owen and Beru. Obi-Wan goes to visit Leia on Alderaan and tells her how much she's like her mother and father, and goes to introduce himself to Luke, where he said the thing!
Hello there.
Obi-Wan runs into Force Ghost Qui-Gon and rides off into the mountains. The end. Okay, before I stab the show through the fucking chest, I gotta soften the blow with things I kinda like. I guess that's just part of my structure now, so let's do that shit! Lucasfilm has always been a pioneer in visual effects, and that's not absent here. The use of the volume, that giant holodeck they use while shooting, is exceptional in this. Genuinely had me wondering if this scenery was necessary for Obi-Wan and Vader's epic rematches when they can create stuff like this, or this, or this, or this. I like the clone scene. I think it really hits home to Obi-Wan really how far away he is from the life he knew. I definitely would have added a scene, however, when word gets out that Obi-Wan is on Daiyu, where the clone gets up and puts on his helmet to go hunting for Obi-Wan. I think that would have added to just how deep the programming of the clones went. I really liked the vibe in the first half of the first episode, and I would have preferred if they stuck with this vibe throughout the series. You could do a lot just by having Obi-Wan on Tatooine in regards to second-guessing his faith and beliefs. You know, challenge him a bit. Give him dialogue with Qui-Gon about how Anakin was thrown onto him when in hindsight he wasn't ready. But no, we need this galaxy-hopping adventure where he goes to 5 different fucking planets and none of his preconceived beliefs are challenged in the slightest. Tala is the best character in the show, second of course to Wade.
Right behind you.
Wait!
Her decisions feel earned, her position in both the Empire and Rebellion is mostly believable, and she feels most like a fleshed out character than Roken, Reva, or even Obi-Wan fucking Kenobi. The re-speeched voice for Vader sounds great. I wonder if that's because it's easier to generate a filtered voice rather than a natural sounding human one.
Have you heard anyone talk like that back home?
There's also this neat pic I noticed where Vader says,
You should have killed me when you had the chance.
and I wonder if the creators threw some of Anakin's lines into the AI, because the way he emphasizes me tells me that this is Anakin in the suit, even if Hayden Christensen isn't. Joel Edgerton as Owen is phenomenal casting, and I'm really glad George Lucas made that decision, forcing Lucasfilm to follow through. I really like this scene because it bridges these two identities, but I have some caveats along with that, so we'll get into that later. Seeing Liam Neeson come back as Qui-Gon was neat. And yeah, I'm totally going for the jangling keys there, but yeah, it was neat. So now that my praises are out of the way, one of the biggest issues for me regarding this series is the plot. The show begs you to suspend your disbelief that Obi-Wan would abandon Luke because Leia needs to be saved. This is something I'm not willing to do because this is completely out of character for Obi-Wan to do. Obi-Wan had one job, and if the show's asking us to forget about that, then the premise is already shot from the get-go. Shows and movies will more than likely ask you to suspend your disbelief to get the plot going. However, the reason I believe it's of poor quality in this show is because the suspension of disbelief is out of character for our protagonist. This isn't something like a contrivance. Abandoning Luke in favor of Leia is not something I believe Obi-Wan would do for almost any circumstance unless there are some major safeguards for Luke while he's away. And if this is something the writers want to do, they need to do a lot more legwork than half an episode trying to convince the character and the audience that this needs to happen. They made it pretty clear in Revenge of the Sith that Leia is Bail's responsibility and Luke is Obi-Wan's. So why does Bail manipulate Obi-Wan into thinking he has some sort of responsibility towards Leia? Why can't Bail hire a bounty hunter for this job? Give them 1,000,000 credits to keep their mouths shut. Leverage them by saying Alderaan would be in their debt. Going to Obi-Wan should be Bail's last course of action rather than his first. The other big issue for me regarding the plot, and this happens quite frequently with the Star Wars series, is the hodgepodge of ideas rather than a singular focus on one. Deborah Chow said this was supposed to be a character study in the same vein as Joker or Logan. What the fuck? That is not what this is. Sometimes works of art are made with different intentions than the execution. However, what you were aiming for sounded like the most suitable option regarding this character at this stage of his life. That's not what we got. What you're describing, Deborah Chow, is what you gave us in like the first half of the first episode. Again, you can do a lot with that on a character level. Instead, we have two stories that are basically fighting for control over the show. This is a Book of Boba Fett situation, except now the turd is polished and the plot doesn't get completely hijacked. Reva is trying to assassinate Vader. That's an interesting idea in and of itself that can be well explored. But the show is called Obi-Wan Kenobi. So rather than focus on one of these characters, the producers at Lucasfilm, in all their glorious wisdom, decided to make a show revolving, not about, Obi-Wan and his galaxy-hopping adventure to save Leia, with Reva being the backbone, leaning on her goals as the starting off point for this plot. Think about it. Obi-Wan just wants to save Leia and get back to the status quo. He's not trying to achieve anything other than to get back to the complacency from which the writers dragged him out of. At the end of the series, he has fought Vader, he's gonna communicate with Qui-Gon Jinn, and is now a hermit living on Tatooine. This show does not justify its own existence because it brings Obi-Wan back to the place he was already at. Reva, however, has something she wants to achieve. She wants revenge on Vader for shaking up her entire life and murdering her friends. We did not need this galaxy-hopping adventure with fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just make a Reva show. Why did she need to be injected into an Obi-Wan Kenobi script when his place in this story at this point of time should not include abandoning his one prerogative and going on crazy adventures? Fucking hell, this is a bait and switch. We don't learn anything about what Obi-Wan thinks of anything because we're too busy focused on Leia and Reva in a show called Obi-Wan motherfucking Kenobi. And anything you can pull away in regards to what Obi-Wan thinks about anything is all subjective. You're looking at a Rorschach test and extracting perspective. What about this scene can you take away other than he is literally haunted by Anakin? Does he feel remorseful? What about his decisions is he remorseful about? What does he want in his relationship with Anakin other than to apparently face his mistake? I know this may be hard to believe, but rewatch Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan has no idea why Anakin did what he did. All Obi-Wan knows is that the clones turned on them, Anakin sacked the Jedi Temple, went to Mustafar, and Padme is pregnant with his child/children. Obi-Wan has no idea Anakin was lured to the dark side by the promise to save Padme. There should have been a dialogue. This show was a perfect opportunity to explore that, but they didn't. There's also this weird pattern where Obi-Wan has to give himself up in order for others to escape. Like he does this 3 separate times. This is a nice trope that I enjoy seeing in media, but it's so fucking overdone in the show that it loses its emotional impact. The characters in Obi-Wan Kenobi do not make it through this show unscathed. Color me fucking shocked. I knew Ewan McGregor was gonna slide right back into this role, and damn, he didn't miss a beat. Hayden Christensen was coming back as well to portray Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker, and holy sweet honey tits was I excited for this. He really did get the shit end of the stick when it came to Hollywood. He wasn't a great actor, and I'm even hesitant to call him a fine one, but everyone had the sneaking suspicion that his performance in the prequels came down to Lucas's direction, rather than the full force of his acting abilities. Moses Ingram was also announced as one of the leads. She made her mark in Hollywood by being in The Queen's Gambit, but people were hesitant about her presence in the story. Yeah, I'm sure there were a few Confederate sympathizers who didn't want her in the show solely because she's a black woman, but the other side of caution was that she would be a bait and switch, and yeah, she is. I think in concept it makes sense that Obi-Wan would be a lonely, depressed, trauma-filled hermit, so why does this work for me and not this? Well, because Obi-Wan is still technically supposed to be on mission. He's on Tatooine to protect Luke and train him when he's ready. He has not given up in entirety. He's a survivor of a purge that killed off almost his entire faction. He didn't run away to an island to die out of guilt.
I came to this island to die.
We have 3 films worth of development as to why he ended up here, as opposed to 3 extremely thin flashbacks, which gives us extremely little in regards to context. In this show, it's also implied that Obi-Wan is cut off from the Force. Why? How? Like, you can have a lonely, depressed Force user. In fact, that's a really interesting idea. But for some reason, Lucasfilm thinks that if a Force user is depressed, they can't use the Force? The Force is like extremely nifty. Like, I'd be using it all the time in my little cave if I could. You mean to tell me he didn't use the Force inappropriately to, I don't know, bring a remote to him or use the mind trick to get out of a fight? Like in episode 2, he just tells this drug dealer to go home and rethink his life while taking a shot. Absolute Chad move, but now he can't use it in the most minute and subtle of ways? There are scenes where he should be using the Force like a mind trick. You know, something he's known to do. Is Lucasfilm implying he cut himself off from the Force? If so, why does he try to reach out to Qui-Gon? Like, Luke cut himself off, but in the show it's portrayed as if Obi-Wan just lost the ability to use the Force. So, which is it? Did he lose the ability or cut himself off from the ability? Both are fucking stupid, but I really want to know, Lucasfilm, or did you just make it so he barely uses it just to nerf him in action scenes? Obi-Wan is very obviously a Jedi and doesn't try to hide it at all in this show. Like, I get how everyone has a robe in this universe, but he never once thought to, I don't know, change or disguise himself. His outfit in the first episode was perfect, but I can imagine Lucasfilm producers with all their 6 brain cells were like, nah, we gotta have Obi-Wan in his Jedi robes, otherwise people won't know he's a Jedi.
Your intellect is as weak as your dollar.
In A New Hope, I'm pretty sure he wore robes because that's the appropriate attire for that kind of weather rather than because they're Jedi robes, hence why Luke doesn't wear robes like that in Return of the Jedi. But George Lucas, the absolute big brain he is, said fuck that and made it so the entire Jedi Order wears those robes. I'm bringing this up because now we're in a position with Star Wars where if you wear these robes, they mean something in regards to your identity as opposed to just what you're supposed to wear based on where you are.
You are made of stupid.
People dragged this scene for miles because Obi-Wan ran away. On one hand, he's trying to lure Vader away from Leia even if it doesn't get her out of immediate harm, and on the other hand, he's running away from Vader because he's essentially freaked the fuck out. I don't like the idea of siding with either of these options. To be frank, this shouldn't have happened at all. Obi-Wan being scared of Anakin is enough for me to say, okay, this definitely isn't the same character because that then highlights a lack of responsibility and a hesitancy on Obi-Wan's part to confront a mistake. I don't like that one bit. I also don't like to believe Obi-Wan bravely ran away because leading Vader away is inconsequential. There are stormtroopers and inquisitors already in the village. Leia gets caught. Bravely running away didn't achieve anything. This whole confrontation shouldn't have happened in episode 3 of this series because the events leading up to it do damage to our protagonists. You can definitely tease it, but Lucasfilm couldn't help themselves and blew their load early. Obi-Wan just forgot how to lead battles. Like in this scene, he's actively not participating in the action. Instead, he decides to carry the wounded. I'm sorry? Obi-Wan was a general. He's commonly referred to as a general.
General Kenobi!
So why is he barely participating in the defense? Why isn't he on the front line since he's the strongest one there? Obi-Wan can just go Super Saiyan because he's motivated by the idea of protecting Leia and sometimes Luke, which I'm kind of fine with, but it introduces more Force issues. Like, in terms of power level, it's as bullshit as this. Didn't Yoda, one of the wisest and most skilled Force users, struggle to lift rubble at some point? Sho, are you trying to tell me Obi-Wan is more adept at the Force than Yoda? I don't believe you. Marty, we have to go back and make sure George Lucas gives the Force limitations. Also, I would just like to add that Obi-Wan left Vader. Everything Vader does after this, the lives he ruins, the people he's killed, Obi-Wan is complicit. It would be different if Obi-Wan was beaten and escaped with his life, but nah, Obi-Wan just lets him go. Like, thanks Obi-Wan, all these people died because you couldn't pull the trigger. Let's talk about Reva. Before I begin though, I just want to preface that sending racist messages and harassing actors should not be condoned. If you do, you're a piece of shit. End of story, goodbye, the end. They're actors there to do a job. Don't blame them because the characters are poorly written. And yeah, I fucking said it. Reva is a poorly written character. Her entire motivation is that she wants revenge on Obi-Wan for allowing Anakin to be turned to the dark side. Hold the fuck up. Obi-Wan is gone. He was fighting the cyborg leader of the Separatists. He was busy literally ending a war. Yes, he may feel some blame and survivor's guilt for what happened, and rightfully so, but he is not directly responsible for Anakin turning into a monster. It's later revealed that she in fact doesn't want her revenge on Obi-Wan, but on Vader. And then she wants to assassinate Luke for justice? Justice. Can someone say Kylo Ren much? Like, she just does things. She has no reason to go after Luke. She just does it to build up tension. Again, she has no idea Luke is Anakin's son. So why is she doing this? Like, holy shit sacks, what the fuck are we doing with this character? You mean to tell me you're gonna avenge your fallen Jedi brethren by hunting your Jedi brethren? You are participating in the regime that took everything from you, which is fine, but you don't deserve this redemption arc much how the Jew Hunter in Inglourious Basterds didn't. Your plan for justice is nonsense. You are the epitome of an angry child lashing out not knowing what you want or how you're gonna get it. Reva is also just Trilla from Jedi Fallen Order, except she wasn't some triple agent for the Empire. She did what she did to survive and eventually believed in it until the very end when she made peace with her former master and then gets butchered by Vader. Trilla did not receive a redemption arc. She learns the error of her ways and then gets butchered. Reva is an Inquisitor who is complicit in all of these murders, so her redemption arc feels shallow. Also, Reva, you're an Inquisitor, but you can't bring yourself to kill a boy you have no prior relationship with yet have no problem being a part of this? That seems a little out of character for you. Also, it's really fucking convenient for Obi-Wan that Reva didn't kill Luke. Obi-Wan, you had one job! Reva has some major plot armor going on as well, from surviving a lightsaber through the chest 2 fucking times, traveling to Tatooine with a gaping chest wound, and being allowed to survive Vader's wrath by saying, Nah. Vader hearing the words, "I let them go," would just snap your fucking neck. Like, that's a really poor choice of words to tell Darth motherfucking Vader that you let them go. Vader suffers no fools, but in this show, he does. Maybe fans of this accursed franchise will use the argument, Darkside users can come back from the death because Darkside, or the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities. See, the thing is, stakes are really fucking cool. Like, death should mean something, otherwise we're gonna get Palpatine in the sequel trilogy, and I don't think anybody wants that. I already know some of you are gonna reference Maul or Scion, but yeah, I'm on team stakes here. These guys surviving is stupid. Lucasfilm, if you're listening, I'm allowing you 1 Darkside user surviving because they're too angry. You cannot have 4. And now we come to Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker. He really wants that salty run back in the show. We started off fine, some brutality here, a bit of murder there. He did not give a fuck. And then the writers took that literally and made it so Vader just doesn't give a fuck by letting Obi-Wan escape 3 fucking times. I've seen people both glorify and drag this scene through the fire. I personally like the idea that Vader is cold, callous, and cunning, while also holding a very special level of sadism and malice, specifically when it comes to Obi-Wan. You can have both, but the events that occur immediately after just contradicts all of that. Like, I had to start asking myself, does Vader even want to capture Obi-Wan? He's not exhausted in these scenes. He isn't physically emoting exhaustion. His force bar isn't low since he still uses the force very effectively, so what the hell? Why does he just decide to let Obi-Wan go? Is he Count Zaroff who just gets his rocks off on the hunt? Put out the fire like you did a minute before, you mechanical twat. I'm also severely disappointed by Vader's dialogue in this series, even if his AI sounds really good. Like, almost every line he says to Obi-Wan is like basic villain shit.
You should have killed me when you had the chance. Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan? And that is why you will always lose. I will destroy you.
Where's the creativity in the character dialogue? We finally get something substantive in regards to dialogue between these two at the 11th hour, and I do like this scene, but my issue is that it doesn't feel earned. If Obi-Wan had been trying to save or redeem Anakin throughout the series, that would have made the scene all the more impactful, but he doesn't. It's really just another emotional confrontation he has with Vader, and that's all I really liked about it. But we got that in Revenge of the Sith. What are you offering us, show that is new? We were really blue-balled with Hayden Christensen. We get a scene of Anakin and Obi-Wan before episode 2, and this paints the clearest picture of the budget of the show. Marvel must be really selfish with that de-aging tech, because what the hell is this? I cannot fucking believe they thought 40-year-old Hayden Christensen could pull off 19-year-old Anakin. That being said, Hayden Christensen fell right back into the role, flaws and all.
Admit you are beaten.
Admit you are beaten. But it was genuinely nice to see him. He didn't miss a day in regards to his lightsaber choreography. In fact, this is the best lightsaber stuff we get in the show. The point of this flashback though is to represent how Anakin and Vader's desire to win is what blinds him. But they're dueling with lightsabers. I'm pretty sure the desire to win is kind of the point. You know, no one goes into a lightsaber fight desiring to lose or to end in a draw. So when Obi-Wan says this,
Your need for victory, Anakin, it blinds you.
it seems like he's just being a sore loser as opposed to teaching some grand lesson about patience or tolerance. I know that's what the show is trying to say, but that isn't what was competently communicated because quality writing is optional. And now, little Leia. She's really fucking annoying in the show. The showrunners are trying to portray young Leia as intelligent past a 10-year-old level until she needs to act stupid and naive. You cannot have both. She just pieces together everything that she was kidnapped so they could get to Obi-Wan just because she saw a wanted sign for him and then runs away? 1, that's a reach. 2, she doesn't even let Obi-Wan explain the situation, she just zooms off. And 3, where the fuck are you going, you fucking fool? She can also just fix a hangar door, and she does this because otherwise there'd be nothing for her to do in this episode, so they kinda made her a mechanic for an episode when she couldn't even fix her fucking toy. They scratched the surface of what should have been her character in these 2 scenes. But she really shouldn't have been much of a player in this plot. You shouldn't have her and Obi-Wan bonding because it fucks with the canon. Obi-Wan sees her as she is in the OT and it's super awkward because she's a 10-year-old kid. Haja is barely a character, so I'll make this quick, but he is a perfect example of how safe Lucasfilm is in regards to portraying criminals. Lucasfilm has this tendency to make it so criminals, scoundrels, or villains in their series and movies have to have a heart of gold. Haja could have easily just scammed this family, but no, he followed up on his word to get them out of there, even though that's a lot of extra work. Also, why is he pretending to be a Jedi? Aren't they being hunted with extreme prejudice? Roken is extremely flat. He decides to help Obi-Wan and take his advice for no other reason than the plot, but I guess when a Jedi tells you to jump, you ask how high. He also had a wife who was force sensitive and she died by the Empire. That's his character. Oh, that just reminded me, this scene is farcical.
General, I'm sorry, but that's not my problem. I had a wife once. We tried to hide it. And the Inquisitors found her anyway. Look, if you want my help, you got it.
Ooh, the whiplash. The fucking whiplash I'm getting from this character. Alright, so we're moving on to music. How is the music in this show? Well, where the hell is the classic John Williams music? Sure, the music they use is fine, but seriously, there's a lot of Empire in this show, and you'd think they would incorporate the Imperial March in somehow, somewhere, before the ending of the final episode. Same thing for Leia's theme. Some of you may think this is a small thing, but the music of Star Wars goes a long way in regards to the audience's immersion into this world, especially the music from the OT and the prequels. John Williams, you did some of the music for the show. Are you limiting Lucasfilm from using your music? I don't know if that's petty or based. Alright class, let's talk about canon, because this show does not give a fuck. First off, Leia and Obi-Wan developing a relationship in this show fucks with their relationship in A New Hope, in which there wasn't one. Does this sound like a person who went on a crazy galaxy-spanning adventure with the referenced individual?
General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire.
No, it does not. And no, this is not something she was expecting the Empire to get a hold of because she's talking about the rebellion. There's no reason to keep their relationship a secret.
I'll have to rewatch this. This doesn't sound like enough of a discrepancy to get bent out of shape.
You're wrong, super ultra celebrity Rich Evans. This fucks with the canon of the original trilogy. If you watched this show and then A New Hope, you'd be questioning why she doesn't care more about this when she went on a whole ass adventure with him. It also brings into question why the fuck Vader didn't think of Reva's plan when it works, which it shouldn't, because now the Empire knows Bail is in communication with Obi-Wan since he sent him to retrieve his daughter. Bail's done. The Organas are done. They're either being imprisoned, executed, or both. This premise is flimsy as all fuck. It falls apart at step 1 because Bail decided to hire the wanted individual over the bounty hunter or even get the Empire on board. Why do they want to keep Leia a secret when they have her join the Senate 9 years later? This show tries to rewrite history so Obi-Wan had a close relationship with Padme when that didn't happen. Does Lucasfilm want us to forget about this scene?
Put the ship down! Anakin! Don't let your personal feelings get in the way. Follow that speeder!
Everyone forgets to use their Force powers in this series, and I'm so fucking sick of it. The Force can only be used in scenes where it needs to exist. Vader can't do this because it fucks with Empire. You can either have Empire or Obi-Wan Kenobi. You cannot have both, and I know which one I'm picking. Reva can only do the mind thing when it's required rather than these scenes where it'd be extremely useful. And Obi-Wan can just go fucking Super Saiyan. I laughed so loud at this scene, it had me crying. This franchise has just forgotten what stakes are. Like, death actually means nothing because characters can come back to life because they're too angry. Reva gets stabbed through the chest twice, is able to fly to Tatooine somehow and isn't healed at all, and I know she wasn't because that is important for the story. The Grand Inquisitor can just get impaled and it means nothing because his species has 2 stomachs. No! No! If you can retroactively make a species survive death, then what's stopping people from saying shit like, oh, Dooku can survive this because his species that looks identical to a human can grow back their heads? No, Tripod, you got it all wrong. He has 2 stomachs, so he can survive a chest blow. Even though a lightsaber can do fucking this. That's what your insides are gonna look like if you get gut checked by a fucking lightsaber. Like, the lack of stakes when it comes to death is abysmal. Do not allow them to get away with Palpatine returning from exploding twice because
the dark side of the Force is...
Shut up! Just shut the fuck up! They also retcon Luke not knowing what the Force or a lightsaber is. The showrunners think they're smooth by not having Luke look... Wow, that's weird. Luke look directly at either the Force or a lightsaber, but come on. Come on, we're really gonna believe this? If I were Luke, I'd be asking some big questions for Owen and Beru, like what that giant glow stick was. That clearly wasn't a Tusken Raider attacking our farm. Hey Uncle Owen, why is everything cut in half? A New Hope cannot function because of this story. It's all fucked, Randy. Everything about this story is fucking broken. Good one, guys. Good one. When's the real Obi-Wan Kenobi show coming out? Alright, I'm back from my psychotic break. On to some other issues I found of varying degrees. So we get this whole segment in the beginning of the series where it's all just remember the prequels, and I don't understand why it's there since we're all watching because we remember the prequels. Why the hell were they blaring Palpatine's Execute Order 66 line on the speakers of the Jedi Temple? Like, we all understand this is Order 66. We don't need it fed to us. Is Deborah Chow suggesting the clones need it on at all times in order to stay effective? I mentioned earlier that I really like the volume in this series, however there are some other scenes where it really looks like they just went out to some open areas close to LA to shoot. Like, was there no budget to travel? The show cost $25 million an episode, and yet the show looks like an expensive show that cut every corner it could. Okay, why in the hell did they portray the 5th brother like this? Was it because the character looks like he's wearing a rice patty hat, so the creators had to cast an Asian guy? I don't know about you guys, but the 5th brother in Rebels gave me more Spaniard vibes than Ronin. I'm assuming they casted the way they did because they didn't want to be accused of cultural appropriation, but you can just cast a really tall and buff Asian guy. Someone who fits the barbaric nature of his animated counterpart. Why did they portray the Grand Inquisitor like this? Look at him! 17 years after seeing these guys. In 2005, George Lucas had better special effects than Disney in 2022. Good lord. Also, why couldn't they just get Jason Isaacs? You can afford Ewan McGregor, Joel Edgerton, Liam Neeson, and Moses Ingram, but Jason Isaacs was a no deal? Alright, you all know this one, but what's the point of this chase scene? Is it to show how fast Leia is? Something she's obviously known for. Like, this might be one of the most embarrassing chase scenes I've ever seen. Oh no, a branch. Oh no, another branch. What is that run? This is yet again a perfect example of how you can achieve more by doing less. Leia runs out, she sees the kidnapper and gets kidnapped. Simple. None of this fucking rubbish is needed. It's actually filler that does nothing but take away from the overall quality of what we're watching. The guy at the beginning of episode 2 says all signals in and out of Daiyu are blocked. How? Why would the Empire allow this place to exist? So we get this 2014 parkour scene from Reva trying to catch up to Obi-Wan, and it's fucking hilarious, cause all I could think about was how the Inquisitors can use their lightsabers as helicopters. Do it, no balls, you fucking won't, Lucasfilm. Make them fly again with their helicopter lightsabers or you're cowards. There's this infamous moment, like, why didn't he take the truck? Why didn't he go around the gate? Why does he just surrender? Why didn't the stormtroopers take away the weapon that he's pointing right at them? The first fight with Vader and Obi-Wan is whack. Like, this looks like a fan film, only it has the actors. What is this choreography? Why are you holding your lightsaber like this? You're supposed to hold it like this. I can understand Obi-Wan being rusty with a lightsaber, but this isn't rusty. This is being incompetent. This is how Rey should have been in her first fight with Kylo Ren. Obi-Wan and Tala are just able to get into Fortress Inquisitorius because there's no security. And there's no security because, and I quote, no one would be stupid enough to attack it. We get to see this scene where Obi-Wan walks through a tomb of Jedi that Vader and the Inquisitors have killed, and they have this in their big fuck-off hallway because they're evil. But what truly broke me was realizing they had a youngling in there from the Jedi Temple. So they took this youngling, left his visor helmet thing on him, and made sure it was on him while they were entombing him in amber. Like, that is just so we can recognize the kid was from the Jedi Temple. You could have just had it be a kid and it would have had the same impact. Like, Lucasfilm thinks you're stupid.
You're stupid.
They think you won't recognize what a youngling is unless they're wearing the stupid ass visors. Tala slaps a stormtrooper helmet and it does something. What's the point of armor again? Like, fuck me, I criticized the UNSC in my Halo review for being incompetent, but holy shit, the Empire is definitely one of the most incompetent factions that I've ever seen. Why do people think it is a good thing that the Empire is bafflingly weak, stupid, and inept? Like, you all do understand that an effective villain is important, right? Because it makes the victories our heroes achieve all the more impactful, right? Stop thinking this is okay just because some stormtrooper bonked his head in 1977. Now everyone thinks that stormtroopers are always bumbling idiots and that's how they should be presented. You guys are taking the extras obvious fuck up literally. Remember this scene, or this scene, or this scene? Yeah, they're totally always incompetent idiots, aren't they? This is a parody. This is something out of a Monty Python skit, I swear to God. There's some egregious shaky cam in this show. I guess it's to build excitement, but usually shaky cam doesn't look like the cinematographer is actually shaking the camera. It's usually much more subtle than this. This shaky cam reeks of, please take us seriously. And no, I won't. Reva tries to kill Vader by slashing at him, and all I could think about was how Grievous killed Shakti in that deleted scene by just pressing the lightsaber up to her back and killing her instantly. And yes, I will happily reference the Revenge of the Sith deleted scenes over anything in The Last Jedi. Reva should have just walked up to Vader, held the saber to his back, and ignited it. It takes less time to do that than to slash at somebody. Bail is stupid enough to leave Obi-Wan a message because he's worried after he says, I know we agreed to no contact. Like, he explains everything in this voicemail when just, Can you guys imagine how pissed Owen would be if he found out how stupid Bail was to give away Luke's location? Bail, you're fucking stupid. Leia, you're stupid. Obi-Wan, you're incompetent. Vader, you're incompetent. Fucking damn it! So the rebels use a decoy ship to distract Vader while the actual ship escapes, and I'm pretty sure the real ship isn't there because it looks like it takes off right next to the decoy ship. Like, do you mean to tell me this random metal thing is that ship? This hangar is not that big, so either they just willed the ship out of nothing to take off, or they just didn't get the proportions right, making the scene look ridiculous. Pick your flaw. Vader is in pursuit of the transport ship, but the Grand Inquisitor, who's still fucking alive, wants to pursue the rebels. When you fucks can do both! You have TIE fighters, you fucking morons! Send the TIE fighters after them! What's the point of having this big fuck-off military if you aren't going to use it? Owen suggests they leave the farm because Reva is coming, but Beru wants to stay because it's their home. Like, I kinda like that Beru will happily pick up a gun to defend her family and her home, but Owen is right.
Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan?
No, you came here to destroy him. How did this get past dozens of people in production?
We will destroy everything in our path until he is found.
Oh my God! What's wrong with your face?
Why does he look like that? Also, Palpatine's like, forget about Obi-Wan, and Vader's like, Okay, I guess that clears things up before A New Hope. At the end of the series, we get more time spent with Obi-Wan and Leia than we do Obi-Wan and Luke. Everyone will say it's because we spent so much time with them together, but this show, coldly I might add, really sidesteps Luke and his importance going forward. I'm not gonna be a conspiracy theorist here and say it's because Lucasfilm hates Luke, but the way they just cut from Obi-Wan introducing himself to Luke is rude as fuck. Also, Obi-Wan just arrives on Alderaan, no problem. Maybe you should put on a disguise or something, a fake mustache maybe? No? Okay. He does this to give Lola back to Leia and tell her about her parents, and then he leaves. How about a good meal? Some money? Bail, my man, can you help a brother out? So at the very end, Qui-Gon shows himself to Obi-Wan, and there's absolutely no substance to it. Like, why does he show up here and now? He says Obi-Wan needed to see before he showed up. What did Obi-Wan need to see? Did he need to see that Vader is irredeemable? Because that was never established. Obi-Wan never tried to save him throughout the series. Learning that Vader is irredeemable is not an arc that he goes on. Learning that the twins are important and need to be protected is something that he should have already known. Dear God, what clown world have I been transported to against my will? I'm certain all of you have noticed this, but the show steals from other Star Wars media, whether it's Fallen Order or Rebels, and I think it just goes to show how creatively bankrupt Lucasfilm is to recycle scenes we've seen before, just with different characters. Obi-Wan was an interesting character. At this stage of his life, he had a level of trauma about him that could have been explored, except the focus wasn't even on him. It was on Reva and Leia, and those weren't even executed very well. Of all the Star Wars series that have Tatooine in them, this is the one where we should have stayed on Tatooine and had a very introspective plot focused around Obi-Wan's mistakes. Was he wrong for valuing what he valued? What he feels he could have done differently? Maybe Qui-Gon could have told Obi-Wan it wasn't your fault, but none of that is in the show called Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is not a reflection on Obi-Wan's character. You lied to us, Deborah Chow. Star Wars has been with me my entire life. My first theater experience was The Phantom Menace. The original trilogy was my favorite set of movies growing up, and I still have a fondness and appreciation for the prequels, even if they are bad films. But I just can't do it anymore. Disney and Lucasfilm have sucked all of the magic away from Star Wars for me, and I'm just done. Star Wars is a shell of its former self. A walking corpse designed and engineered to dance and keep dancing long after its time has ended for the sake of monetary gain. This has become a franchise with so many changes, retcons, lack of stakes, and a lack of talents in the writer's room. I can't even enjoy half of what Lucasfilm has put out in the past decade. Rogue One and Season 1 of The Mandalorian is about as good as we're gonna get, and even with all the issues that plague them, I'm fine with it. You know, I don't expect perfection in my media by any means, but I just need something that makes sense. But we've had setback after setback after setback after setback. Lucasfilm's intent to keep talent out of the writer's room and the ghost of the sequel trilogy still haunts this franchise. This series was supposed to be their best foot forward, and it doesn't even get the bronze. It gets the penny. This is some fan fiction levels of writing if I've ever seen it. Obi-Wan goes on a mission to save Leia. He joins forces with the Rebel Alliance while being pursued by Vader and makes it back just in time to go back to the status quo. If this is the absolute best Lucasfilm can do with their direction, characters, and plot, then I'm done. It's all just become a bit too much for me. I'm sorry to end this on a dour note. I really didn't want to, but I'm just exhausted by the nonsense. If you're just happy to be getting Star Wars content, then good for you. Turn off your brains and just consume product. My standards are a bit higher than some brand's conveyor belt of mediocrity, but you do you guys. This very well may be my last Star Wars video for a while, unless you all really enjoy my suffering. Maybe I'll make a video on the OT, maybe I'll do one on the prequels, who knows. Maybe something great will come out and I'll make a video on that, but I just don't feel like investing hours of research, editing, and viewing for a property that's a shallow version of itself. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all enjoyed the review. I need a vacation.